or challenge, beginner. So what's the beginner challenge returning? What? Nothing. What nothing means? Nothing. We have an error. Let's see if Alex is right or not. Yes, we have an error. Unexpected token, semicolon. Why? Correct. We cannot put semicolons inside of objects, right? We put it there if we want, there, but not inside. Oh, right. So the last semicolon. What's the name? Yeah. That's a bit exotic, right? Chrome is still complaining. Unexpected token semicolon. And if I remove semicolon, still complaining. Right? It's complaining about something that doesn't exist. Because of whatever reason, I cannot save that snippet. That's probably why it's failing. Okay, let's do something. Let's create a new one and see if it helps. Well, it's not complaining anymore, apparently. So what will the snippet return now?
42.
42. That's correct. Why, you in?
I don't know.
Wrong. You cannot give me an answer if you cannot defend that.
Oh,
Right?
I ran on DevTools and it gave me that answer.
I prefer you to give me a wrong answer, but at least
Oh, you
provide
want-
valid arguments, even if the conclusion is wrong.
Okay.
Right?
No, I don't really get it. I don't get it.
Who gets that?
So we're using the call method
We're using the call method. What's the call method, Alex?
on the object, on the user object.
Yep.
And we're calling the function getAge.
Yep.
In the call function on
Mhm.
the user.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will return
Yep.
this.age, where this is the user.
Yep.
And user.age or this.age
Mm-hmm.
returns 42.
That's correct. That's correct. And to rephrase that, let's start from the beginning. So, I'm going to create an object called user, and the object will have a couple of properties. Age, 21, like him or her, and then getAge method, which is a function that returns return this.age. So, the first question I'm going to ask, I'm pretty sure you'll have the answer. So, what's user.getAge returning? 21. That's correct. And now the second and complicated question is why this is returning 21?
Because this refers to whatever's calling it.
That's correct, Tom. That's the key. That's the fundamental thing of today's workshop. This, first of all, is an object. It's not a number. It's not a string. It's not a boolean. It's not a type error. It's an object. Because it's an object, it refers to the object that invoked the function. So this is always part of a function, this function, right? What's the value of the lexical this? The value of the lexical this is the object that invoked that function. Does it make sense? So if we had a breakpoint here on line number 5, and if we run the example, you see, this refers to the object. So this, I'll try to stop using the word this, because otherwise it's going to be a bit confusing. So that is the strategy, the way that JavaScript works in regards to the lexical this. But that could become a bit more complicated. For example, what happens if we have that? what's now the value of this?
That's the object that's calling it, so it's the window.
Why the window? In the previous example, we had something like user.getEdge. So it was obvious that we were invoking this function because it belonged to that object. But in that particular case, we don't have any dot notation, right? We don't have any user.getEdge.
So the window is invoking.
Why is the window, Tom?
There's nothing before it.
That's mostly correct. So first of all, that should return undefined. Correct. So this, by default, points to the window object. And that looks like magic, but we'll see in a minute why it's not magic. If I do a breakpoint on line number 3, and I run the snippet again, and if Chrome works, apparently Chrome prefers morning workshops, right? It's failing more towards the end of the day. But let's try again. If I add a breakpoint on line number 3, right, it's not liking the breakpoint neither. If I have a console log on line number 3, will it like it? Yes or no? What do you think? Who knows, right? Yes, it likes console logs today. So Tom is right, essentially. This, by default, points to the window object. And there is a good reason for that. When you call a function like that, in reality, under the hood, is the same as doing that.
What's the window?
What's the window?
The actual, the whole window.
Yeah, the window is the root object in JavaScript, right? Sauron. Everything is a child of the window object, somewhat, right? So if I do that, now it's more obvious. It's easier to understand that this points to the window, right? But that is, listen, it's the same, right? Look, you see? Right? So that works. As you can see, that works. Is there any question?
I have a question.
Yep.
So you would put to console log, you would put this.h.
Yep.
But still return window.
No. So that's the confusing thing. That's why I wanted to add a console breakpoint instead of a console log. Let me see if the breakpoint now works. No, it doesn't work. So that console log, look, if I run this example again, that console log is that function. This undefined, what's the undefined? Correct. Why this .h is undefined?
Looking for an age property in the.
Correct. Do we have any age property on the window? Which properties do we have on the window? Do you have any property on the window? Yeah, okay. Without cheating, do you have any property on the window? Right. I'm sure some of you, no, let me rephrase that. I'm sure everybody here has done at least one something like that. Right? So what is that set time out thing doing?
Wait a second and then whatever, go back.
Yeah, so it will do nothing. This is asynchronous. Remember the synchronous workshop? And after 1,000 milliseconds, which in human language is 1 second, I was going to say more or less, but it's not more or less. It's exactly 1 second. It will display the console log, right? So if we run this example again, wait. It's waiting too much, right? It's probably waiting too much. Yeah. That's right. This is wrong. Right? This is so. Whenever this happens, my suggestion is try to kill everything. So if something is running under the hood, try to kill everything. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. It's still running. It's still running a previous version. Yeah, you know. 21, 23. You know what? When this happens, I used to kill Chrome. Can I kill Chrome, Alex? All right. So, but when I mean kill Chrome, it's kill Chrome completely. And then open it again. Right. So then we can open it again, inspect, console, sources. Here we go. Right. Right, so Chrome has decided not to save all our progress, so we need to type it again conveniently. So again, let's put the set timeout example back. Right, and then so we do. Let's be a bit more polite. See if it likes it. So if we run the example. Okay, now we got the breakpoint. Okay, that's good. I like that. Then eventually, now we are 17, right? It's changing our age all the time. But again, let's ignore that because that's super confusing, right? Why now we are 17 years old? Right? Yeah, I'm sure there's a good reason for that. But anyway, the important thing now, ignore the function. Let's focus on the timeout. So we know how this works, right? So with the set timeout, it will display something after this period of time, right? After 1 second. Do you agree on that? Set timeout is a method that belongs to the window object. So this will work as well. Right? Yeah, every time we run it, we get older, which is true, right? Thank you, Chrome. I like it. Cool. Yeah, so that's the point, right? Every time you call a function, if it's a global function, kind of, in reality, we are setting the value as part of the function. So, can we do that? Or let me rephrase that. Will this make any sense? So, for example, if I do window.age equals 99, will it work, yes or no?
Yeah.
It should work, right? That's correct. Why? Again, this points to window, and then the browser will say, hey, wait a minute, do I have any property called age in the window?
Yes.
Yes. And will this work? Yes or no? Interesting. No? Keen is not convinced at all. Why not, Keen?
Why?
Is anybody opinionated? I think Eugene is quite opinionated.
Yeah, give me because it's the same as
Haven't
99.
introduced it.
That's correct. That's correct. Remember, every time you have any global reference, JavaScript under the hood will say, hey, I don't know where that belongs to, no problem at all. I'll do that. Internal, right? Which is like a trick, but it's what it is, right? Obviously, it goes without saying, don't do that. Never. Don't do that. Don't assign variables into the window object, because then you are populating the global scope. We don't want to do that, because that means that our age variable can be accessed from anywhere in our application. Right? This is not clean. That's why we have ES6 modules to separate things. Don't populate things into the window object. Questions? So this is the default behavior. That is the default behavior of the lexical disk. However, we can change that. We can change that. So we can override the lexical disk. This is a classic job interview. So if I have another object called let new user, right? We got some senior players today here in the challenge. So then, how can we make this algorithm to display, to refer to that object instead of to that object?
Use call.
Use call. Call. Okay, how do we use call, Tom?
So it's the function dot call,
Yep.
and then you in the parentheses you
Yep.
say the what you want this to be.
Which is?
new user.
That's correct. That's correct. So if we do that, will now the function return 77 or 88? 77. That's correct. Using call, we can change the default.
This context.
Correct. The default lexical this context. Right? And also, what happens if we rename the function? So I'm going to change the example a bit. So now I'm switching to call, which is obviously related to this, but I would like to talk about arguments, right? So if I got two values, this is a basic beginner's question, right? So I got two values, and I want to add them. So can we do that? Can we do? Will this work? Yeah? Yeah, you're not convinced, why not? It will, right? 4. Easy. But then, what happens if we want to use call?
The arguments are the after. So you do this first as your first.
Correct. Correct.
And then in a comma separated list, you do
Yeah.
all the arguments.
Correct. Correct. If that's the example we want to look after, so what's our lexical this? Do we care?
You're using this.
We are not using this, right? Can we do that?
So
We can do whatever we want, right? We are not going to use this here. So this is a way to say, this is like if you put undefined. Like I don't care about lexical this. My function is not going to use lexical this at all. Oops, not like that, right? Can we do that?
yes.
Will this work?
So
That's correct. That's correct. Call receives at the minimum one argument, which is the lexical this, the context, the scope, and then it receives a comma-separated list of arguments. That's the way call works. And what about apply? What's apply?
give it an array instead.
Correct. Apply is the same thing as call, but instead of a comma-separated list of arguments, it receives
An array.
an array like that, right? So that should work as well. Exactly. They are the same. Depending on our data model, sometimes for us it will be easier to use an array. Sometimes it will be easier to use a comma-separated list of arguments. That said, I think that principle was important 10 years ago, but today it's not. Why? Because today we can easily swap from a comma-separated list of arguments to an array and vice versa. For example, if we have my numbers, which is an array, so using apply, which arguments do we need? My numbers, correct. And it works, right? But what happens if we want to use, because of whatever reason, call? How to make it compatible? Correct, that's correct. Do you remember the rest parameter? ... So if we do that, we are essentially spreading. We are transforming an array into a comma-separated list of arguments. So today is not that important which one you use. In the past, we didn't got that, so it was a bit trickier. But today, no big difference. The important thing here is to remember the difference between call and apply, because the employer will ask you, right? So you should remember that. So how will you remember which one is the comma and which one is the array? Correct. I love that. Apply array. A, call, comma, separated list, call, C, C, right? That's the way it works for me. If you have any other trick, like remember everything forever, like Alex, lucky you. For everyone else, that should work. Any question? So this is about call and apply. Call and apply immediately invoke, execute the function. However, with bind, it works differently. So what's bind? Bind creates a reference to that function. Let me remove that. So with bind, you have the context again. So then you can assign the result of binding a function to a variable. So based on that, we can simply ignore the function. Just 2 steps. Call and apply, immediately execute your function. Bind doesn't immediately execute the function. It just saves a reference in memory, so then you can invoke the function wherever you want. And obviously, once you invoke the function, it will reuse that context.
What's the context?
The context is the lexical this, right? So what this function will return? Six, correct. Actually, let me change the example a bit. It's very similar, but I'm doing that because of a reason. Instead of sum, I want to multiply. What will this return? Sorry, I didn't want to multiply, I wanted to divide. That's my fault. I want to do something where the other matter, right? Multiply is the same, right? Cool. So I want to divide. So we divide, for example, 6 and 2. So what will this return? 12. Why not, right? The result of dividing 6 and 2 is 12. Do you agree? Right? Wrong. Now it's return free, right? So that we agree on that. But now, can we do that? Let me rephrase that. What will this return?
Error,
Math error. Let's add a breakpoint. This is what you should do all the time, right? Let's add a breakpoint. Look, it's not an error, definitely. This is a valid scenario. So when you use bind, you can either totally, completely, or partially provide the list of arguments. And this will be prepended because that comes first. In other words, by doing that, we are telling the function that it will be executed with the first argument of 2. What will be the second argument? We don't know yet. But the first one will be 2. So then at the time you actually invoke the function, you can complete it. Right? That's why A2, B6. So that works. It's not a math error, definitely. Right?
It would be like 2 divided by
No.
nothing.
It's not 2 divided by nothing. So that is 2 divided by nothing. What will this return? It's 2 divided by undefined. I think this is not a number. Correct. That doesn't make sense. But however, that makes sense, right? What will this return? 3, correct. And what will this return? 3, 2, why 3, why 2?
So 3 because 12 and 4 will be the 1 and 2.
Correct.
And then it's going to try and take those as the 3rd and 4th.
That's correct. Tom is completely right. So at this line, I say, what's the context? Nil. Okay, thank you for nothing. What's the first argument? 12. Okay, A equals 12. What's the second argument? 4. Okay, B equals 4. And then we say, wait a moment, now I'm going to invoke the function. No problem, no problem. Okay, next argument, next available argument will be 20. It's like, okay, whatever. I don't have any third argument here, right? You will just ignore it. Fourth argument will be 10. Fair enough? Same thing, ignored. So essentially, these two arguments will be ignored, and the function will just return free. So when that bind strategy makes any sense, so I see several scenarios. First of all, if we want to change the context, if we're using this and you want to change this, like we did with the user, I'll go back to the intermediate in a minute, where we are changing context. It makes sense. It makes sense to attack different objects. Also, that could make sense. If instead of two arguments we have 3 or 4, I mean, this is a bit of lazy, right? But in reality, we don't have, if 12 is always the first argument, we don't have to type 12 all the time, right? So we can call it like that. We can call it again, right? Using a different argument, you know, whatever. So we can invoke the same function multiple times, right? Let me rephrase that. What will this return? If I do my function 2, my function 6, what will this return? 12. Why 12?
Because first it will divide 12 by 2,
Correct?
and then it will divide 12 by 6. And
Correct?
then it will the result.
Correct. And what's the execution order of the breakpoints? Eugene?
So 6. 6, 3, 7.
6, 3,
7.
6, 3,
7.
7,
3.
3,
7.
7, 3 again, maybe?
No, that's it.
That's it. Alright. Wrong. If you are right, you get 3 points, right? But for now, it's wrong. You type, can I type your name using camel case or Pascal case, or is it just kebab case?
Yes, kebab.
It's kebab, right? No, it's not kebab. It's not, right? This is not kebab. This is a mix of kebab and Pascal case.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe there's a name for that. I don't know. There's a name to... Not with the snake case. So, sorry about this off topic. So anyway, you are wrong. That's the important thing now. So, Osman, can you see it more? Can you see it on the corridor, or is it the? Are you? Is what? 7, 7, 6, 7, 6, 3. Wrong. Victor?
Got me.
Jim?
6,
6,
7,
7,
3,
3,
7,
7, 3. Wrong. Marta? 7. Wrong. No, that's wrong. That's wrong already. Eugene already. So Alex? We start at 6, not at 7, definitely. 6, 7. Yeah? 3. 6, 7, 6, 7, 3, 6, 7, 3 again maybe? No, wrong. Right, great.
Don't know.
Tom?
6.
6,
7,
7.
3.
What?
7 again,
7 again.
and then I'll go back to 3.
Go back to 3. Why not?
And 7.
And 7, right? Wrong. Is there anyone else? Victor, Gin. I think that's it, right? So I think you will all fail, or maybe I fail as well, right? But again, if I fail, you will get 1 point. And if on top of that someone was right, that person gets 3 points. So I think that will be, I mean, it will be 6 for sure, the first one, right? I think we all agree on that. Then it should go to 7, and then it will invoke the divide function. How many times the divide function will be executed? Twice. That's it.
And does it go back to
To where?
I thought maybe it invokes the first bit, evaluates it,
No.
and then invokes it again, and then evaluates it.
The thing is, it depends. Not well. Let's play that. The thing
Split
is,
the line in half.
that's the thing. But no, listen. That's true. That's true. Now, that's fairly recent. You see that you can add like sub breakpoints. So that's good. That's a good thing because you can fine tune and control in which part of the line you want to stop. That's good. But the thing is, I just put it 1 breakpoint here, like the whole line. So I think it should stop on line number 7.1. Let's have a look. Line number 6, and then it will go to line number 7. Oh,
Move the breakpoint up to the second part of the line.
I move it. No, wrong. Wait, no, stop. I move the breakpoint. You're so great. Off. Sorry. Let me try again. Gray is right. I move the breakpoint by mistake. Right. Let's try again. 6.
Chrome does it.
Oh, Chrome. It's moving my breakpoint, right? That's unacceptable. I want to have a breakpoint here. You see, it's
Temperamental.
very temperamental. Yeah, I cannot handle that. I'm afraid. But anyway, I'll
Take
tell
your
you.
word for it.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So it starts on line number 6. That's the first thing. Nothing happens before line number 6, right? And then it will stop here. So the next is number 7. Because it stops before executing the line. So it stops line number 7, and then we'll see what happened on line number 7. So on line number 7 said, okay, first of all, invoke that function. So it will run line number 3. And then, once you have executed that function, please do the same thing again with a different argument. It will go again to line number 3. That's why line number 3 will be executed twice.
So if you did have a breakpoint in front of my function with the argument of 6,
Here,
yeah, would it go back there after running 3 once?
I think so. I think because I'm not 100% familiar with how these sub breakpoints. I need to investigate that. But I believe that now you will be right. Now we will stop here, and then there, and then here, and then there. So now I think it should be something like 6, 7, 3, 7, 3. I think. I think. I'm not 100%
So
sure.
give them some-
Let's try. 6, 8. Why 8? 6.
Seven. 3.
That's. It doesn't give me the chance to select both breakpoints, right? That's why it's hard to follow, because in reality, when I run the example, it's going to ignore the first one, so it will run the first execution. So B will be 2 in a minute. Here you go, right? Because it already ran that. No, that's bullshit. This is just going to create a lot of confusion. So just trust me for now, right? So that's the correct. Ignoring this sub breakpoints thingy and assuming Chrome was fine, stops here, stops there, and then it calls the divide function twice. Any question? So that's pretty much it. I would like to show the intermediate one, because that's pretty much the same thing, right? So on the intermediate, what we got here is we have 2 objects. Fine. User 1 and user 2. So we want to call the getAge method of one of these, and we want to override the lexical list. So let's do that again, and this may not work because of what we already know. But anyway, I think this is still a good exercise to understand how the flow. Does it make sense? This kind of breakpoints thingy. Okay, so now Gim, you're first.
Oh, no. Two?
2.
I don't know.
Eugene,
Okay. 15.
15.
So we need one. We get to 2.
2.
5.
5.
8.
8. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Osman,
15.
15. 2. Sorry. 15, 2, 5. Wrong. Victor.
That's it.
Yeah. Marta, 15,
Two.
15, 2,
No, eight. 8.
15, 8,
No.
no, 2, 8,
11.
11, that's it. Right or wrong? Wrong. Alex, 15, wrong. Gray, 2, 8, 15, 5,
Stop there, but
right or wrong?
It's right so far.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Gray is correct. Right? Why? Why you think, why most of you think,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Why 15 first?
Why?
why 15 first? I don't know.
It's always going to be 2 because you're assigning.
I mean, yeah, generally speaking, we start reading like newspapers and everything from top, right? Unless there is something asynchronous, which may happen, it will happen definitely. Unless that by default we start from the top, right? So here we are just creating a variable. This happens synchronously. So the first will be number 2, that's for sure. And then lots of things here, whatever. So then we create another variable, so that will come next, right? 2, and then 8. And then 15, because that's the first thing with the third instruction. So instruction 1, create a variable. Instruction 2, create another variable. Instruction 3, call a function, right? So it will stop line 15. So then, the important question here is, let's run that first of all. I will stop on line 15. Okay, 2, correct. 8, correct. 15, correct. And now, the question is, will it run 5, 11, both, none of them? What do you think? We are doing user 1, get 8. So if I stop reading here, I may assume that next line, actually, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I think Gray is wrong as well. I didn't, see, yeah. No, sorry, no, excuse me, no, sorry, Gray is right, sorry. Oh yeah, so yeah, user 1 get 8, so we run that, right? So get 8 is that function, so it will clearly run line number 5. Then, what's the value of the lexical this? Will it be user 1 or user 2? Why user 2? Correct. We are overriding the value of the lexical this. So that means that it will run line number 5 and it will return what? What will this function return?
Plus the maths.
What's the maths, Tom? 29.
3.
See, the number 5, discount 1, 1, 2, and then this. Look, you see, lexical this has changed. Now it's pointing to user 2. And it returns 29. So what happened if now we change that? What will this return?
Yeah, it's trying to add user 2 and 1.
What's the value of discount 1?
User 2.
Correct. That doesn't make sense, right? So now, because we're invoking the function, the first argument, discount 1, is the object user 2. So that's wrong. We need to do that, right? So what will it return now? 22. Correct. Correct. That's the way you can change the lexical this. And how do we make that work somehow? So, for example, so we call get age of user 1, so we would clearly call this function. But what happens if we do something a bit exotic? What happens if we do that? You see what they want to do? What will this return and why? Why 52?
So setting the age globally for the window.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really read it.
So where is lexical this pointing? To user 1, user 2, or window? And why?
So the window.
To the window, that's correct. Remember what we said when we started this workshop. Lexical this, by default, points to the object that invoked the function. Who invoked the getAge function? Was it user 1 or was it window? It was window, correct. So with a breakpoint on line number 5, that's the window. What's window.age? Does it exist? It does exist because we created it here, 55. So, as some of you said, we'll return 52. Remember, lexical this, by default, points to the object that invoked the function. And what will that return?
We need an array.
That's a good point. We need an array.
Another trick.
We got the array. And then what? is this pointing to user 1, user 2, or window? So Tom, window. I'm not going to say if this is right or wrong. Let's do the round. Then we got Osman, user 2. Marta, user 2. Jim, user 2. Doesn't look good for you, eh? Hey, but you could be right? Alex? Does anyone apart from Tom thinks is pointing to something else? Can you explain, or can you, well, not explain, I mean, can you convince Tom that why user 2, or Tom, can you convince them why window?
User 2 is the first element after the apply. We added user 2. This means the method will be called for user 2.
Yeah, that's correct. So when we have user1.getAge, by default, this lexical this will point to user 1. That's the difference. But then we say, no, wait a minute. I'm going to reassign that. I'm going to keep a reference on window.getAge, which means that now the pointer refers not to user 1, but to window. But then on the last minute, we say, wait, I'm not done yet. I'm going to override that behavior. So in reality, lexical this should point to user 2. So if that's correct, what will this return? 29. That's correct. And what happened if after all these things, in reality, we do that? What will this return? Say it again? Ah, yeah, that's wrong, right? Which user? That's a really good question, Marta. User 1. (22), correct. Here, in line number 16, we are creating a reference to the function. So that means that now we can do window.getAge and it will return whatever, 52. But in reality, we still have our original reference, right? So of course, we can do user1.getAge and we can keep doing that, no problem at all, right? So that should return correct, 22.
If you deleted the get age off the front, would that still return?
If you delete what?
Sorry, if you deleted user 1 off the front of it.
Yeah, good question. What will this return? So Marta, yeah, this is going to be controversial. 52. This is going to be controversial. Maybe not. 52. Do you agree or not with Marta?
I would have thought incorrect.
So Gray said 22. Why 22, Gray?
Because that line that you're currently on, you've set window.getAge to user1.getAge, so I would have thought that window.getAge now points to the getAge function within user1, but I'm not sure.
That's wrong.
Uh-huh.
And the reason is, remember, lexical this always point to the object that effectively invokes the function. In other words, this line is the same as window.getAge. Right? So if we got that, if we change the example, Do you change your mind, or do you still think it will return 22?
Where's the get age function in the window?
What is? Well, it's here. You created a reference to the getAge function inside of the window object, right? So now,
It's using that function, but with the value of 55. Yeah?
yep, that's correct. That's correct. It's calling the same function. So the code, the code that runs is literally the same, but lexical this has changed. So now lexical this points to window, right? So that will return 52, correct? And if we get rid of the prefix, that should still return 52. No problem at all. Same thing. Any question? Let's do something crazy, just 30 seconds. What happened if we, and I've never done that, right? So if we do window.getAge.call user1, and then we do function dot, not call, dot bind, and then we do call user2. It's going to be a bit complicated. You know what I'm trying to do? What will this return, if that makes any sense? What? 29. So Marta and Tom, you both said 29. Can you explain that? Yep. Yeah, correct. So in reality, we are overwriting all the time the context. A, then B, then C. The last one wins, right? If you do A equals 1, and then A equals B, and then A equals C, and then A equals to C, right? We're changing the value all the time. So I believe that now, as Marta and Tom said, that should return. Oh.
It's 1 apparently.
So,
No bind maybe.
yeah, that's what they said. I never tried that, so that may be unexpected. So the problem here, it returns 22 because when we bind it, it looks like we cannot change it afterwards. Right? So,
Bind makes it immutable.
say it again?
Bind makes it immutable.
It looks like bind makes it immutable. That's correct. I didn't know that. Yeah. So that means that it doesn't matter what you do here because after in function, now lexical this has been strictly set to user1. So it doesn't matter what we do afterwards. I mean, you'll never have to do that. If you see that in the code, someone did something wrong, right? Because this is pointless, right? But it's good to experiment with different bind, call, apply, this, blah, 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 right? Any question? So that strategy has been valid since 1995 until 2015. Now that's still valid, but now we got a new player, which will be explained tomorrow, which is arrow functions. With arrow functions, that is not true anymore, right? And that's one of the differences between classic functions and arrow functions. They are the same pretty much, except when we have to deal with this object. We'll explain that tomorrow. I think that's enough for today. So, any question? No? Thank you for watching.